Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, and we've got a story regarding Peter Weber and ex-Kelley Flanagan. As the title shows, Bachelor's Peter Weber was caught off guard by ex-Kelley Flanagan's bad split claims, and he says it was very calculated. It's an audio-only podcast, Bachelor's in the City. I'm going to play for you guys clips of Peter mentioning how brutally honest he was going to be, talking about the specifics of the breakup itself, why Peter and Kelley didn't work on the show. Then his roommate Dustin's going to weigh in, and then we'll share a little gratitude, how you can be grateful for a relationship that didn't work out. And it's important to remember that relationships, when they don't work out, plenty of factors can work into it. And being a sort of celebrity or an influencer like this in the limelight doesn't help. But what's important for any of us going through a breakup or trying to learn from our past mistakes is you will be presented with the same scenarios over and over till you overcome them. Whether it's your codependency or love addiction or whatever it may be, you'll be presented with the bad relationships till you understand those red flags and avoid them in the future. So hopefully they learned a lesson of what they want and don't want out of a relationship. We'll have to see. But I do want to encourage people to listen to this with a critical eye. Understand that the truth is always somewhere in between both their stories, and that because Kelley Flanagan opened this portal by talking on Chicks in the Office and sort of started to air her side of the tea, people will formulate opinions and judgments based off of what she had to say. Now Peter has the right to respond. Kelley's a lawyer. In the court of law, you get to respond to claims. You get innocent till proven guilty. And in this scenario, I think it's important, even though a lot of Bachelor Nation wants to label Peter a certain way, that he has the right to share the opinion of who he is, his character, what he brought to a relationship. And I think he does an okay job with that. I think he does. It must be tough. Imagine spending 30 minutes on a podcast trying to not come off defensive, because that's what's hard. It's like she levied some claims against him, saying, basically implied that he cheated on her, and then people ran with that. Oh, it sounds like he cheated on her. She never said that. It's important to have a lot of media literacy when you're hearing people's sides of the stories and understanding just because something might sound a certain way, we don't know what the truth is, and we have to let them live their lives. And if we want to sip a little bit of the tea, we can do that, but we have to be kind of objectionable here. So anyhow, folks, I've got several time codes we're going to talk about, so let's get right into it, and the interesting parts will come out. I'll try to jump right to them. Let's go to the video. Let's go to the audio. This is audio only, so feel free to go do the dishes and figure out some other things to do while you listen to this. But let's go here. Why are we getting it canceled? 1 second here, folks. I don't know why this is so hard to do. It starts basically at 3:06.
Genuous, and that's too bad. I didn't necessarily expect that, I guess, from Kelley. It kind of caught me off guard. Now, the reason that I say that this was, in my opinion, calculated, I'm going to explain all this. I'm not going to leave you guys hanging or anything. And obviously, made headlines and all that. And that's it is what it is, right? You sign up for an experience like this, and obviously there's a certain level of privacy you lose, and you probably never get, quite back all the way. And again, you sign up for it, you know what you're signing up for. But it just seemed very, like I said, pushy for a headline. And just to give you guys a little background, the reason that I'm feeling this way is, listen, obviously the breakup was obviously very hard on the both of us. I've been very open how truly, and I'm not just saying this, truly, Kelley was the best relationship that I have ever had in my life, and could not be more grateful for the 10 months that, we did have together. Yes, it was not perfect. No relationship is, obviously, but so grateful for that time. I care very, very deeply for Kel. And, anyone that's been in a relationship knows that the attachment that you guys have, that you form, doesn't just go away overnight.
Oxytocin.
Right? It doesn't just disappear. Even if, you guys come to a point where you realize that you're not necessarily super compatible or meant to be with each other long term. Dusty, I know well, I know how much I've leaned on you for, just the last couple months moving in with me, obviously into New York. Again, for you guys that don't know, New York, Kelley and I were going to move to together, and then obviously broke up right before that. Dustin was a lifesaver for me, and moved in. And just let me be very clear to that point. And I had been in communication with one of Kelley's friends briefly, just checking up on her. Kelley and I weren't talking. We had no communication. I was respecting that. But I was talking to one of her friends, and I'm not going to obviously reveal any names just out of, respect for the privacy. But I had asked her, how she was doing and where she was at, and just wanted to kind of check up on her. Like, truly, I obviously, care a lot for her. And just to be very honest with you guys, what doesn't make sense to me at all about this last podcast is Kelley's words were given to me through her friend, and they're, I'm not going to quote them, but essentially they were, if you ever want to have any chance of communication again with Kelley, she says that you're going to have to do some grandiose gesture, some big public display. Now, I have a problem with that.
By the way, it sounds like Liam Neeson in the movie Taken. If you ever want to have a relationship with Jessica, with whatever. All right, yeah. So this is bombshell news for as far as it's concerned, because Peter's airing out what Kelley's friend said, and I know people were worried. Oh, are they going to start bringing out text message receipts like Blake Horstman's kind of ordeal when he kind of felt like he had to defend himself, which I'm still behind. But I think it's a little. This is where Kelley's going to be forced to respond, because look, if Kelley's best friend or good friend of Kelley told Peter, hey, she wants a big move, you got to get big out there, then it brings into other aspects like, are we doing this for us, or what is this for?
Because that, in my opinion, is not what a relationship is about. And yes, we sign up for a show and we put our life on display, especially romantically in a relationship. But you guys have to understand that Kelley and I our relationship never actually took off from the show. If you guys watched it, you know that. It truly was completely removed from the show. Yes, we're still going to be attached to it. I get that. But I have a problem with her wanting me to do a huge gesture, a public display for everyone else, but not keep it about the two people that really only matter in the situation, being Kelley and myself.
Okay.
And, I am someone that, like I said, I'm not confrontational. Even if we were never meant to be together again, I hate the idea of not being able to at least be cordial with someone that you were so close to at one point and has meant so much to you. I do not like that idea. And so a reason behind me asking how Kelley is doing was to possibly get to that point. So I hear that from her friend. And, I tell her friend, just like, listen, that's not something necessarily that, I'm not prepared to do. I don't necessarily agree with that. I would love to talk privately with Kelley and talk matters out. Obviously, we have so many things to talk about. I would love to have a private talk with her and not have to do it for the public and to get headlines going and for the, the media to pick it up. That's not what I was about. And so, some time passed. And, she's been on my mind a lot. It's an ex, and that's part of the process of moving on. And so I texted her about, I would say, 2 weeks ago. And truly, when I say I'm 100% moved on, this was not in any way to try to rekindle some type of flame or anything. It was truly to just talk. And I literally said, I have, a million and one things I'd love to say to you. Got a lot of shit from Dustin for sending it. He didn't necessarily agree. But I reached out and I just asked if she would be open to opening up a line of communication, just to talk and be cordial. She's coming to New York and whatnot. Zero response, met with zero response. And I, message taken, accepted. I get it. But then I see her go, and again, part of the reason that this is so calculated to me is I see her go on, a very well-known podcast, a very successful podcast, Chicks in the Office. I think they're great. I had the opportunity to go on with them during the show. Mad respect for them. But goes on and would rather talk about our private relationship to the public and not, again, to the only person that other than her that should matter in that relationship or failed relationship, the two of us, not have a private conversation. And that's what I wasn't okay with. It screamed, I want a headline. I want to ride this out as long as I can. And this is the next best way to do that.
Interesting. Okay, we'll play a couple more clips, but hold on a second here. I wanted to address that is his roommate, his friend Dusty, didn't want him to contact Kelley. Kelley never responded. So Kelley's doing the no contact. But when you're in this celebrity limelight, does it count as no? And leave a comment, let me know. Does it count as no contact when you are going on a podcast and then talking about it? Because that is in one way contacting. Also, Kelley's friend contacting Peter is also like circumnavigating the no contact. So Peter probably, in hindsight, should have gone no contact because a clean break's a clean break. But when we're bringing things up and talking about things on podcasts, that technically is contact. So no contact is good, but it was violated here by Kelley Flanagan and by Peter Weber trying to contact her. If he had things he wanted to get off his chest, I totally understand. Sometimes you break up and you like lay it all out there and then more things surface and you just want to get more clarity and this and that. I totally understand that. The fact that she didn't respond to that, I don't know what that means, but I think a healthy thing to do would be like, if the other person has steam they need to let off still, and it's healthy for both of you, let that happen. But Kelley has the right to not talk to him if she doesn't want to.
You know, I don't know if she knew that I was going to respond with the comment that her friend had made that had come straight from her mouth. But just, I have an issue with that.
All right, so let's move forward here. We're going to have to find out who that friend is. Can we get the friend on the line? We need to get the friend on the line here. Let's go to 15 and a half. 1 second here. We're working with Apple Podcasts. It's kind of finicky. So you can watch this whole thing. I recommend you do that if you want to. But of course, I'm not going to play the full
I would say
clip.
is when it really kind of started to really kind of go downhill, unfortunately, and just seeing like, I don't know if this is, I think we both kind of felt it. And it's a sad time, obviously, when two people get to that point. People like to make a big deal or say, oh, how could you do that around Christmas time or New Year's Eve or the timing of it? And that, guys, truly wasn't even in my head. I was not trying to or not to do it around a holiday season or whatnot. It was where our relationship was, and it just happened to be at that time. We had been separated. I was in LA, she was in Chicago. This is like mid December, and we had been talking a lot, having a lot of conversations on the phone, and it's tough when you're doing that long distance relationship when it possibly gets to the point of a breakup. It's like, shoot, like it's just very inconvenient, right? You fly out there just to break up and then come back home, or is FaceTime acceptable? Like, what is acceptable, right? It's never a comfortable situation. And so we had talked on the phone, and we had kind of come to,
I think they should just go on Chicks in the Office podcast from now on to break up. How about all the breakups happen on Chicks in the Office podcast?
This is like mid-December that we were gonna go our separate ways. And like a day or so went by, and then, we got in communication again, and she asked me, she's like, listen, if this is actually going to happen, I think you need to actually come out here and do this face to face. And, I didn't want to at first. I really didn't. I think, just the level of how uncomfortable that is and whatnot, and the pain of that, I didn't want to, but I thought on it, and I thought, the right thing to do is to do just that. And so I remember that night I got on a red eye and I flew out to Chicago. No one knows this. This really hasn't been spoken on. This is way before the New Year's Eve thing or the actual public post, and flew out there on a red eye, landed, remember 5:30, was at her place by like 6:15 in the morning. We had a really long heart-to-heart talk on her couch, literally from like 6:15, 6:30 to like, no joke, like one or two in the afternoon, and it's the hard talk, the talk, that no couple likes. And you go from the tears, and it's every range of emotion, and hugging each other, and, but then having real talks and being serious again. And anyways, we decided that no, we were going to stay broken up, that we weren't going to try this again. And I took like a 3:30 flight back to LA, and that was it. And a couple of days go by, and then we fell back to each other, and we didn't want to let each other go. And we tried it for a little bit longer until it just, the second time around, it was done for good. And it had just been such a hard year, 2020, for everybody. And obviously, now what Kelley and I are going through in our private life that no one really knows about, it had been just such a tough year. And me, whether it's, people can agree or disagree, this is what I had to do. I think that's, if there's anything that I've learned from this experience, is that I kind of have to, put my foot down a little bit more and not be such a people pleaser and do things for me sometimes more than I maybe have been inclined to do in the past.
Yes,
and
sir.
I was like, listen, I need to leave this in 2020. We've already been broken up longer than anyone actually thinks. And again, it's no one's business, but I need to leave this in 2020. Whether you think it's crazy of me to do or whatnot, I don't want to bring this into a brand new year, a fresh start, and have it start with such a downer. And
I feel like and I respect it, but I feel like that's such an OCD thing. Like, no, I got to do it on this day because when I flip that calendar, when I flip the page in the calendar, I'm starting new. I totally get that. I totally understand. Absolutely. It's like the person who's like going to quit smoking tomorrow. They're like, no, one more puff today, then tomorrow I'm breaking the cigarettes. Well, he had to break that relationship off, those proverbial cigarettes. He had to break them off in 2020. Of course, she didn't want this to happen. Bachelor producer said, wait till like January 3rd or whatever the day was. So when Matt James season starts, it'll drown out the traffic. We'll have to see, of course, so Peter said he's got to do it in 2020. Now, you can disagree with your ex on when you're going to break up. You don't have to both agree to push the breakup. It would be one thing if they agreed to do it on January 3rd and then he did it on the 31st, December 31st, and didn't tell Kelley. But it's another if he's like, listen, I got to do it when I got to do it. We've been going through this breakup for several weeks now. I got to cut the cord. I need this to do. And maybe he has his friends in his ears being like, you know what? F Bachelor Nation. F the show. Who cares waiting for it? No, do it when it's appropriate for you. None of us have ever been in a position where we have to time a breakup to deal with a national TV show here.
That's just, I've always had this positive mindset and, it's how I'd like to live my life. And I was like, I need to do this. We are broken up. There's nothing to hold off for. I need to leave it in 2020 and let's start fresh. She obviously didn't agree with that. And, she has every right to her opinion on that, but that's just touching on the whole time frame of the actual announcement. I know some people were confused, and again, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
What we don't get is any information on why Kelley said lines were crossed that they'll never come back from. We don't know what that is. That's, of course, what a lot of media said. Well, it sounds like he cheated. There's literally no accusations of cheating by her. He doesn't need to defend something that's not an accusation. We need to do a better job of not making evidence that doesn't exist. Let's go to 23 and a half here. Again, we're just flying through this, but I do recommend whenever even if it's content creators that you don't anticipate supporting in the future, give him a subscribe. Give the podcast a chance. You know what I mean? Who knows? Maybe you'll find it interesting. I think it's very telling that a lot of people don't like Peter Weber's season because it didn't end in love. Maybe he would be ready for love in the right circumstance. It sounds like he's flying to see Kelley to break up in person. Obviously, no one wants to do that in person, but obviously, he did. But it sounds like he wants that love, but there's still other parts of the life that need to be burned off. Bro, I get it. If you're listening, Peter, I get it. Look, I'm 36, all right? I've been in my relationship since my late 20s, but I spent most of my 20s recovering from heartbreak, learning about who I am and myself as a people pleaser, my own codependency, and trying to learn how to reinvest in who I am and never letting someone get in the way of my true happiness, but letting them be a part of it. You know what I mean? You're a pilot. You just got your dream job. Started yesterday. Congrats. You're flying out of LaGuardia, whatever you're doing. You got the life, man. Enjoy New York. Enjoy your single life. And look for somebody that has the qualities that you weren't able to get from Kelley. I think you'll be fine. I think as far as Bachelor Nation's concerned, we're all like armchair quarterbacks where we think we know what's best for people. It's like, look, we would do no better in this situation as well, and I hope you understand that. All right, let's go here. Let's go to 23. Let me go rewind here. 23:30, and this is going to be Peter explaining how him and Kelley didn't work out on the show. But interesting to see that you could not work out on the show. She came in, 7th place or something like that. Not work out on the show and still have a chance to work out in real life. It goes to show how many factors the show brings in.
And whatnot. But one thing that I just respect so much about her is that she, like, when we decided to get into this relationship and pursue it, like, she let all that go. And, she had to deal with a lot of backlash from that and a lot of opinions. and it wasn't necessarily fair. And it just made me feel even more grateful for her, that like she had shown me kind of like that grace and whatnot, and given me another second, third chance, that. Again, that's it. The grace, I think, is one of the most beautiful things you can give your partner in a relationship. Just because that's the definition, right? It's not deserved, but I look up to her so much for not letting like the public really, get to her in a way that really, really like affected our relationship, or that she let affect our relationship. And I want her to be happy, let this go, let it be. I don't know for sure. From what I've heard, she's possibly seen someone else, I think down in Florida. I don't know the extent of how serious it is, but just enjoy that, just like move on, and I want her to be happy, and I want her to find someone that can put a smile on her face every damn day. And, if it's this guy that she's talking with or someone else, like I want her to find that. And I don't think this necessarily helps that situation. I don't think that's fair to the guy or it's fair to her. I think that just causes confusion. That would just be kind of my hope. If I could like send a message to Kel is just, let's finally just like kind of put it to rest. And
all right, he says finally put it to rest. And I think what's interesting, and I think there'll be some pushback to this from the ladies. I think there's got to be you have to be able to differentiate putting something to rest versus also just sharing your truth. Now, did she have any motivation to go on the podcast? She already sort of won the PR battle of the relationship for the most part, but it seemed the more she would post a comment on somebody else's thing or be like, oh, I see you're friends with so-and-so now, the more she would do things like that, the more people go, that's not moving on, Kelley. And who are we to judge? But I think it makes it interesting because he wouldn't have to have done this conversation if she didn't go share her side of the story, which she's entitled to do. But it'll be interesting to see how Peter comes off from all this. I will, of course, be covering this story, so hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. All right, let's hear what Dusty have to say. Of course, there's nothing like a good friend who wants you to move on and wants the best for you. We need those friends in our life. We need a good friend, looking at you, Colton Underwood, to pull us away from something after it doesn't work out and move on with our life. Okay. And Dustin seems to be just that. I remember when I went through a bad breakup in New York, and then I started texting again with the ex. Man, my roommate, God bless you, Ben. My roommate, Ben, nearly punched that phone out of my hands. He's like, we didn't work so hard so that you'd go back and talk to her. Boy, you got to love your buddies. You got to love your friends who can do that. I know ladies, of course, have those friends too. It's like, no, it's like we become agents for the person. We start negotiating for them. We're like, oh, they want to text you again? She's going to need a grand gesture. So that's what makes me wonder if Kelley ever said the grand gesture part. Because I could see a friend saying, "Oh, you want her? You better go big. Yeah, fly your little plane and put a banner behind it saying, 'Kelley, take me back.'" Who knows? I mean, we didn't hear from Kelley herself, so even though Peter says Kelley's friend told him this, now we're starting to play a game of telephone. Okay, that's what it is. Doesn't mean it's not true, but when it doesn't come out of someone's mouth. Just like we know on the show Bachelor, when you don't see something come out of someone's mouth, when it's over their shoulder, Frankenstein edits, whatever they call them, we don't know for sure what's actually the case. All right, Dustin weighs in. Let's bring this baby home.
But it's all perspective. We all don't know how someone's truly feeling after a breakup and whatnot. But I do applaud you. That was very classy and, yeah, man, heartfelt.
Thank you, man. Bro, you don't know how much I owe to you in this. Literally for the last 6 months, and obviously I have not leaned on anyone more than I've leaned on you, and it's something that is a huge reason why I am so grateful for so many things in my life. And this is getting all lovey-dovey, bro, but I love you, man.
Get lovey-dovey.
I wouldn't be here without you. So
yeah,
the bromance. Get lovey-dovey. Don't be afraid to tell your buddies you love them. I got a buddy, rest in peace, Diggums, passed away from a stroke. And when your buddies go, the older you get, the more you wish you told them more often you loved them. But I think we come from a generation where we express our love a little bit better than our parents, for the most part. Maybe this is anecdotally speaking, but I have saying a bit about my dad hugging me, and he has to pat me on the back because he's afraid to, hold another man. But I think my generation really likes to squeeze the love out of each other, and I do appreciate the bromance Peter and Dusty have. And you know what? I'm subscribed to your podcast now, Peter. I'm giving you guys a chance. You're bachelors in the city. You've got a album art of you guys walking dogs. I can get behind that. I'll be in New York later this year. Maybe you can come to a stand-up show here and we can have a brewski. All right, let's go into this final clip here. This is Peter Weber wrapping it up with some gratitude.
You can't look back. You got to keep on moving forward. You got to keep yourself occupied in a breakup. You know, you just got to stay busy. You can't stay stagnant or you're just going to suffer, honestly. And going through a breakup, it's like grieving, you know, losing somebody. And some days you're going to feel good and some days you're going to feel terrible. And there's no real time period. It could be another 6 months from now, Pete, that you just have a low point where you might just really be missing Kelley. Like you have clarity and you have, you know, you're through the breakup, but it just might be a low period where you just really miss someone, you know? So, yeah, I guess the science behind breaking up is still being studied. But being between you guys, I hate being in between, you know, because I love Kelley. You know, Kelley's my homie. I haven't really talked to her much lately, probably, since you guys ended everything. And I know that she wrote me a message when you guys broke up, like, you know, we're still friends. I still care for you. But, you know, it's just like, I think she had to unfollow me because she didn't want to see and your interactions every day. Yeah, you know.
I had to do that with her.
Yeah, you had to do that with her. And, yeah, I guess I hate to be in the middle because I love you both. And, you know, I did want you guys to do good and be together. But also, I want you guys to be happy, even if you can't be together. So, yeah, if Kelley's listening, I hope she's doing well. And I miss her as a friend.
Dude, I know. She loves you like crazy, though, man. I understand the situation, and obviously it is what it is.
Yeah.
They're talking like Kelley, like she's a dog that was lost in the divorce battle. They're like, she still loves you. She thinks about you. She cries for you at night. But no, and this is what happened. It's messy. They have friends in common. Kelley Flanagan had to unfriend Dusty, and of course, Peter had to unfriend Kelley. That's part of what's good about No Contact. If you're ever going through a breakup, you unfriend everything. You get rid of their Spotify. You get rid of their Hulu passwords. You get rid of their everything. Don't go to familiar restaurants. As I made a joke about this last week, you living in New York City, you break up with someone who lived on 96th in Amsterdam, you're never going to go back to 96th in Amsterdam until you can go back there and not cringe if you're going to see someone that you used to date. That's what it comes down to. All these little triggers that bring up a past relationship, get them out of your life so you can move on. That's why when you get in a breakup, you're like, I'm going to cut my hair. And then next thing you know, you're like, how do I get rid of my bangs? You know what I mean? Like we all go through breakups and like want to just scrub ourselves of the relationship that was, because it is a death. You do need to move on. You do need to bury it. And you can't do that when you're following each other on social media. You can't do it when you're going on podcasts, unearthing the past. So I'm kind of torn. While I respect Kelley for sharing her truth and her side of the story, it sounds like they need to have another heart-to-heart. And sometimes it takes a couple heart-to-hearts to really bury things. And I think this is why, by the way, I assumed this scenario would have been Dale and Claire. I totally assumed that's how their relationship was going to end, just a he said, she said battle, which they clearly nipped in the bud. And then, of course, are happily back together. They were able to overcome that communication barrier. But when it comes to Peter and Kelley, it's like, look, this is why couples in you know, that have a platform, that have a big following, that have some notoriety, that's why they release a joint statement and never talk about it again. Because the second you start trying to leverage to show why you did what you did, the other person's going to respond. And chances are Peter is a true people pleaser. Chances are he did everything he could to make her happy, but his lifestyle, where they were, the geography of it all, just wasn't going to work. You can be a people pleaser and still end up in a situation like this, and Kelley can deserve a guy who might be maybe farther along in his career, more settled down. They just were at a crossroads, an impasse, as it were. If you want to join my impasse, come join me. Hit the subscribe button. So much content coming up. What a wild week. I've got Matt James on the Pomp podcast talking about his relationship with Rachel Kirkconnell for the first time. I'm going to air more of that today. And then I've got Dean on Jason Tartick's podcast talking about that, the ring buying and how excessive it's becoming. So tons of content out there. Join the Patreon if you want to check the behind the scenes content, the stuff I can't share with you guys in public. And I got a link below. You can join the Patreon, Discord, newsletter, all that stuff. Stay in touch, folks. A lot's coming up. Katie Thurston starts in under 2 weeks, so we have a big season ahead of us. 3 seasons in a row. Katie Thurston, Bachelor in Paradise will be filming any day now, and then Michelle Young's season of The Bachelorette. You guys are spoiled. Lots of content. Keep it respectful in the comment sections, and I'll see you guys later.